Welcome to 30, Wordy, and Friendship. My name is Alia Bogdanoff.
And my name is Whitney Ensom.
And here is I think this is our 8th episode.
It is.
Wow. We're going to talk to, I love that laugh. That was the cutest giggle. We're going to talk today about overcoming overcoming negative self-defeating thoughts. I think there were too many words in that one.
That's a whole lot of words.
We'll work on that. We'll workshop that. But basically, we're going to talk about how to overcome those thoughts that start in your head that are negative, and they just start to break you down, and they start to spiral, is what I would say, into changing the way you think about yourself, the way you feel about yourself, changing the way you see your life. And basically just like completely
break you down,
pound you.
Yeah.
And we want to just address that today because I think this is something we all struggle with, every human. But we want to look a little bit deeper into how do we address these thoughts? How do they affect us?
Yes.
And what are we going to do about them? Are we just going to let them control us, send us into fear? Are we going to overcome them and turn them into a life learning lesson to grow?
I love it.
So we're going to start. Whitney, why don't you start by telling us some of your struggle with negative thoughts?
Yeah, so I like that word spiral because I feel like that I've struggled with that in the past of kind of fixating on some thought that came up as a result of something. Maybe I did something embarrassing. Maybe I made some mistake and usually I've blown it way out of proportion and it's not as big of a deal.
You think everybody's thinking something and they're not.
And they're not. So it's definitely something I've dealt with of when something happens, then I have this belief about myself that is really negative and self-defeating, as our title says. But this distorted thinking that's completely not true. Yeah. And when I take a step back after having a good night's sleep and some calm time, being like, it's okay, Whitney, chill out. It's like this bird's eye view perspective of, no, it was really not that big of a deal. And you, like I'm going to keep referring to myself as recovering perfectionist because it's true that you're trying so hard to have it all together. And when you don't, in a moment, you start believing you're just the worst person ever. And that's just not okay, but something that I've really had to work on over the years to move past that. Because that doesn't help me grow. That just kind of keeps me stagnant in self-defeating thoughts. What about you?
I feel like I have this idea of what I want people to see me as. I have an idea of what I want people to think about me, and I try really hard, I've mentioned this before, to control that because I want to be seen as a good, I don't want to say good person, it's too general, but I want to be seen as good, just in general. Yeah. Someone who really works hard, tries hard to care for others, tries hard to show that I'm thinking of everyone else, and sometimes I do things that counteract that, and I worry about the way I come off to people, or I worry about mistakes that I make. Yeah. And those mistakes turn into questioning myself, questioning what I'm doing, questioning who I am. Am I trying hard enough? I know this happens to me socially sometimes when I hang out with friends and I don't get the outcome that I wanted at the time I sat with them. I'm like, maybe it's me. Maybe it's my fault. I'm not asking enough questions. I'm not inquiring enough. And the spiral for me happens where I get really defeated. I decide that I'm not important. And that I'm not important in that relationship. I'm not good enough for those people, which stops me from spending time with others or reaching out. It stops me from pursuing things that I love because I just don't feel good enough. And so that's where I usually end up when it gets really bad. Yeah. And then I have to kind of have like a recovery time. Yeah. So, yeah.
Man, that good enough. That's
a loaded word
for sure. I think that's relatable. It's that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Well, I'm wondering about times that maybe we have examples of that for us.
Yeah.
So can you think of any examples for you that maybe a story that illustrates what it's like to experience that.
To start a spiral.
I want you to relive your spiral.
Tell me your deepest, darkest. I said deepest, darkest. Because I got nervous about telling this story.
And apparently I'm getting nervous because I'm like blushing and it's getting warmer.
That's because these stories make us cringe. So we're gonna go out on a limb and we're gonna tell stories of things that we hate that happened to us. And we wish I could just erase it from my memory.
Because it keeps coming up.
And I hate the way it makes me feel. So I'm going to share for the sake of everyone out there who's listening and is struggling with this. Okay,
yeah, for sure.
So the other day I was dropping my son off for preschool, and the parking lot has kind of a weird shape where you have stalls and then you have these other spots that you can temporarily park in. They're not technically stalls. Anyways, I was pulling out after dropping off my son. I just gotten some really strange news, and I was just kind of like foggy headed. It was early in the morning. I was really stuck in my thoughts. So I just started pulling out on my spot, and I almost hit somebody. And I not only almost hit a person, but next to her, as she was holding hands, was a little girl that I potentially almost hit. And her reaction to me almost backing into, couldn't tell if it was like her car, her, and this child, was to scream the F word at me. And because she was scared. Undoubtedly, she was very frightened. And I slammed on my brakes and thankfully did not hit anyone, touch anyone. And I immediately started spiraling like, oh my gosh, what just happened? How did I not see her? Right. What's going on? She's yelling obscenities at me. So I'm like, I don't feel safe to get out of my car and apologize. So just kind of yell, I'm sorry. And I just like slowly take off. And that was the end of the incident. So I'm driving home. I'm shaky. I'm freaking out. Because I'm like, I almost hit someone. I wasn't going super fast, so, but I caught her off guard. She was on the phone at the time, so I'm sure she's trying to get a child out of the car. She's distracted. And so she saw me at, like, last minute, too. It was just a bad incident. But I just started spiraling at, like, what just happened? What is wrong with me that I almost did this? Did I look in my mirrors? I remember when I went back the next day checking, like, could I have seen her from this mirror? Could I have seen her from that mirror? Oh my gosh, maybe I didn't check my third mirror. That I probably would have seen her if I would have done that. And I'm just having this like anxiety attack around what I just did. Now that's the incident. What I want to talk about is the post-incident. It's the thoughts that happen in my head afterwards. So one, I never wanted to go back again. I wanted to call my husband and say, pick up our son. We're changing schools. I'm never returning. When I didn't do that. When I did return, I remember thinking, I'm going to park so far away that she'll never see my vehicle. I just can't face her. I don't see her frequently. I don't even know who she is. I don't know her name. Never run into her before. This is like a random person. And I'm just like, I'm going to avoid the heck out of this. I'm like, well, that's not realistic because I have to do this. I have to drop off and pick up every single day. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to send a letter to the school explaining what happened and try to, arrange a meeting. Okay, that's probably not a good idea. I'm going to find her, try to talk to her, and explain what a bad day I was in. That's not going to happen, no. I'm just like, what am I going to do about this situation? And then break it down in third. Like, what did it make me feel about myself? I started to feel like, Alia, how dare you? You are so uncareful. You're selfish. Look at you, only thinking about how the world affects you. You're dangerous now. All of a sudden I felt dangerous to others. So instead of something being just an accident, being a moment of weakness, being a moment where I was distracted, it spiraled into this entire way that I saw myself that week. And I dreaded every time I had to pick or drop off my son because those feelings, those negative feelings got brought up every time I pulled into that parking lot. And you better believe when I pulled into that parking lot, I am like superwoman vision. And I look at every mirror and I go so slow now. And, but all that to say that I was so embarrassed about not just what I did, but like who I was. I was so thankful to God that he protected that family and he protected me and my family. But I felt so unworthy to be there. I felt so unworthy to be around people. And I'm pretty sure that week I didn't want to spend time with anyone. It affected me pretty big. So that is one incident. I mean, that was probably 30 seconds of my life. And it's been a little like a week and a half. And I still think about it every time I go there.
It's like getting back to normal after such a
trying to figure out like
difficult thing.
Who to be.
Yeah. Who am I in spite of all these negative things I feel? I know who I am, but getting back to that sounds like it was really hard.
Someone needs to just revoke my license. And then this will never happen.
No more driving for you.
No more driving. No one goes to school. But I'm going to homeschool them now.
Please don't.
That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
But that's probably not helpful for anyone.
No, it's not.
No, you don't think so?
Oh. I won't speak to the homeschool part.
You don't think
I don't know
should
who's listening.
Run from this situation?
No, don't run.
Okay.
Keep going to school. Keep kids in school.
Keep kids in school.
Oh, man.
Okay, Whitney, your turn to share a disturbing, bad reflection on who you are story.
Yes, I have one. So last month I did this hike with a group of people, awesome people, up in Yosemite. And I was just really tired from preparing the day before, helping out, and there was like 25 other people I'd never met before, and it was a lot going on, and I was in a way helping lead. And I'd done several Yosemite hikes. I've climbed Mount Whitney. I've done, like, I'm a hiker.
Right.
But I got people lost.
Because you were in charge.
Twice.
Twice?
Like, not just once.
You never told me the twice part.
Oh, because it's embarrassing. And now I'm going to tell all of YouTube and Spotify in the world that I got people lost twice.
Oh.
So it was one of those things where just not great communication of where are we going, and then I'm not looking at the signs well, and I'm thinking we're going to Half Dome because I had done that before, and that one of the trails, and so I remember thinking when I got to the first time, I'm looking at my map and I'm thinking no, and I have like 3 guys with me who followed me because they think I know where I'm going.
Oh no, that's even worse.
Oh, it's the worst. And I'm like, guys, I took us on the wrong trail. So I'm like leaping down like a gazelle trying to get back. And when I get back, everybody is there. We had separated into 2 groups before in the morning. Like 30 people are down there looking at me like, oh, sweetie, what did you do? I'm like, oh no.
Honey pie. What's going on?
I definitely got us lost. They're like, you're going to Half Dome, huh? And I go, I don't want to talk about it. So I just sort of just faded into the background. And then we're going again. And I'm just going up, just doing things. And then people are still following me. I don't know why they're still following me. They trust me because I'm a hiker.
Yeah.
And I get them lost again.
Oh, no.
And so the person who's helping me lead, I see him and I'm like, oh no, not again.
Oh,
and
no.
I think I said several times, I'm so sorry. I just kept saying it. And I'm like, I'm just going to stay back here, okay? I made some dramatic statement like, I'm just going to stick in the back. You know what I wanted to do?
What?
I wanted to just go a different direction and go back and get in my car, and which leave. Is like 15 miles away. And I want to leave. And I want to hide under that rock and
jump off that waterfall.
Jump off the waterfall and swim home to Fresno from Yosemite. Would have been a long swim. But I just felt like just the worst person, trying to lead. And so the whole way back, I'm just muttering to myself, can't believe you did. Like in my head, of course, I don't want to be talking to myself. I'm sure I was moving my head, like twitching, and I'm like pretending that it's like a fly. And I'm just trying not to look like I'm falling apart. But I was telling myself some pretty awful things. Like, you are a bad leader. You're a bad hiker. You are not a great... But yeah. How could you do this? What were you thinking? They must all hate you.
The Bible says not to lead people astray. So really, you broke the Bible.
Oh my gosh! Now I feel a bit worse.
I'm trying to make you laugh.
You do. No, I led people astray. I was a wolf in sheep's clothing. I'm not making fun of the Bible. Anyway,
my coping mechanism is joking because it's stressful. Yeah,
it was so stressful.
It sounds
so
stressful.
I was just like, I was feeling like I'm not, like you said earlier, that worthiness. I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough to do this. Why did they choose me?
Yeah.
And then I was hiking this last week, a couple days ago. And I'm by myself, and I'm hiking, and and we'll talk later about triggers, but I'm like feeling this over and over again. So I'm in this zone of believing what I know isn't true. And I think back to all the hikes I have done,
Yeah.
but it's just this battle in my mind, and I start spiraling down, and then I just want to disappear, and that wasn't great.
Yeah.
And I just felt really dumb.
I think it's that feeling of feeling really small. Like I always say to my husband, like, I'm this big. You can't see my fingers, but I'm about the size of like a toy car, like a little car. It's like I feel really small.
So small.
And I feel like I could just hide under some rocks.
Yes.
And not come out. We call it, what do we call it? Cocooning in our house. It's where you put a blanket over your head and you're like, I'm not coming out. Just announcing to the family, this is where I live now. You can bring my meals to the blanket.
I am 32, but I'm going to hide under this blanket and live here because I am 5 right now, and this is my safe place. My safe
zone. And I just want to address really quick. You may be listening to these incidents and think, like, these are no big deal. Maybe you get over it really fast. But you have to understand, like, each of these stories are really personable to us because... Personal to us? Not personable? Personal to us because it's something that we do every day. It's something that affects our lives on a daily basis. You're a big hiker. Right. So that's something that affected your perspective of yourself as a hiker. Right. Mine affected the way I thought of myself as like a mom and a child protector. Yes. And, the
core of who we are as people.
Exactly. Like the worst thing I could do would be hurt a child. Yes. And that's something I almost did. So these are significant to us because they strike the core of an identity for us. Yes. And so they repeat over and over because I think of we were talking about Joy and Sadness, the movie Inside Out. Yeah. And I think of that, like, these are core memories, right? These are core islands for us, and my island's shaking a little bit right now.
Island and Motherhood Island
turning pale color
and about to be destroyed.
Oh no, not Hockey Island. No. I was thinking that
one. Fun Island.
Goofy Island. Yes. Yeah. So that's why they're so important. Let's cover. You mentioned it earlier. Triggers. Sure. Talk about how a trigger works for you in this situation.
Well, I'm hiking 2 days ago by myself, and I'm reliving this thing, and I'm not even thinking about this Yosemite hike. It was like a month ago. And I'm just thinking, I'm in the moment right now. I'm in a completely different part of Yosemite. But I all of a sudden have this thought that comes to my mind, you're a really bad hiker. Or you're just not good at this. And I know that that's not true, but that experience, and I've been hiking, this is the second time since going. I was on my vacation, so I really haven't had a lot of time to feel triggered. But I do this hike, and I'm reliving this moment of just feeling that embarrassment. Yeah. I'm reliving that moment of realizing I've taken them the wrong way twice and feeling small, feeling like I want to cocoon. And then I'm just back in that moment. I'm reliving it. Yeah. And so that trigger of doing something that I love now brings up that memory of when I wasn't good enough. At least I thought I wasn't.
And don't you find that it kind of always barrels down to a point? And yours, what did you say? Yours was, you're not good at hiking?
I'm not a good hiker.
You're not a good hiker.
I'm not good enough at hiking. Yeah. I'm just not good enough. I'm not good at this.
You should stop. What it usually is trying to get you to do is I should stop doing this.
And so you're going to keep, and really I didn't fail, but it was your failure at this. Yeah. You don't know what you're doing. You get people lost. Why are you doing this?
And the thing about the mind is, like, there's no fact checker in the mind. Mm-hmm. There's nothing being like, excuse me. That's my nerd voice in my brain. Excuse me. This is incorrect, and you need to reanalyze, like, sending through the brain again. No, that doesn't happen. That was a really bad impression of my brain.
But that doesn't happen. Character. And you're like this old lady with glasses, and you're like hunched over a computer, like, I'm sorry, error. This isn't right.
Error, send through brain again. That doesn't happen. It ends somewhere in the brain, and they're like, and this is the final thought. Yeah. Mine was I'm unsafe. Yeah. And for me, because of what I've experienced in life, safety is huge for me. And so for me to think I'm unsafe for others is like breaks the core fiber of what I believe in. Yes. And of my wanting to make sure people are safe. Right. Like, when I go to my son's school, even though it's none of my business, if there is a crying child in his class, I cannot leave until that child is taken care of. And not that the other teachers aren't helping and taking care of, but, they experience this on a daily basis. So they know when to step in. And there was a new kid in McCoy's class crying today. And I walked in, I was like, oh no, what's going on with him? And they were like, oh, it's his second day, and he's just sad. He's adjusting to being at school. He's 3. And I go down to McCoy. I'm like, McCoy, my son, and he's like, huh? What? I'm 3. What do you want me to do? I'm like, you need to go over and say hello. And look, he's wearing a Spider-Man sweatshirt. You love. Could you talk to him about Spider-Man and go introduce yourself? And McCoy just like awkwardly walks in front of him and is like, Spider-Man. And this kid just like, and McCoy's just like, Spider-Man? Mom, I'm trying. He's not responding to my therapy. Spider-Man? Yes? No? Are we going there? And I'm like coaching him, like, give him a hug. Put your arms, and he's looking at me like, are you? He's heaving. He's dry heaving. Is the hug a good idea? Anyways, it just, that's how I am, right? Because to me, I want everyone to feel good and safe. And
sweet McCoy.
I hope the teachers aren't too annoyed that I interfere every time a child is crying.
But your heart is to have people feel included and safe.
Right, exactly. Because that is so important to me.
That is important to you.
Okay.
What about yours?
You go.
Wait, what?
You go. Yeah,
what are you saying? What are you saying?
I don't know.
So, triggers. Yeah.
My trigger is every time I drive in that freaking parking lot. I have to do it twice a day. He goes to school twice a day. I mean, once a day, but twice I have to drop off and I have to pick up. And the car was maroon, so maroon cars. Every time I see a freaking maroon, thank God it wasn't silver or white or black, because I would never drive again.
Like,
who is it? But maroon vehicles in that parking lot set me off every time. And I've been dealing with this for over a week, and I consider myself to be somebody who can really, tear this idea apart. And it's still a struggle for me. And that's part of the never-ending spiral that happens unless you can get, So let's talk about some tools.
Oh, man. Well,
what's your favorite tool?
I had never done this before, but I had some other struggles this week of just not negative thinking. I think it's just because I've been a little tired. But I found so the other morning, I'm reflecting on the day before. I'm starting the day and I'm remembering all the things that I was insecure about. And I decide to create like a counter statement.
Ooh.
Which I've never done, and therapists in my life have told me to do this. Never done it.
Give me an example of this. I want to hear this.
Okay. Right. So for example, someone at work gave me some feedback about something I said in a meeting, and I would love to say that I'm really good at getting feedback because I do benefit, but there's always that I didn't do the right thing.
That stab.
Yeah, it's called pride, I think. But I said, I think I was trying to think of the thing in my mind that came. I don't remember exactly the thought that developed at the time, but I chose to listen and say thanks for the feedback. But afterwards, I felt a little bit of a feeling of I'm just not a good social worker. Like maybe I'm not like as a whole, but like that wasn't a good social worker moment. Like I messed up, and really. I actually didn't necessarily agree with the statement that this person said, but I took it as, gosh, I messed up. But then I decided, this was my alter statement. They can have their opinion, and I'll take that feedback as an area for growth. And I am still a good social worker.
Yay! I love that.
I know. And
so that's what you packaged it differently.
I had to change the theme because there's a list I have. I made a list because it's been a difficult week. But times of believing these negative thoughts, it took a lot of will to go, nope, I don't believe that one. Because it didn't feel true. Those statements didn't feel true until I read it over a little while after a few times. Like, no, I am a good social worker. I am a good social worker. I say something maybe that didn't seem... I'm still a good social worker. It's not about good or bad.
So can I try that?
Okay, please do.
I'm going to try that on mine.
Okay,
I'm really excited. Okay, are you ready?
I'm excited about it. Because it is exciting.
I've never heard about this. I am super stoked about this tool. Ready?
Ready. I'm ready for
I am a good driver.
Yes, you are.
I care a lot about others.
Yes.
I need to work on maybe going a little slower when I'm feeling stressed or distracted. And I can really work on... I got stuck, but that's all I got.
I love it.
But that was good. Yay! Yay!
Yay!
No, actually, that makes me feel better because
Good.
I think, okay, so the brain, I know this about the brain. The brain labels things black and white, good and bad. But I think, like, it just does that generally. But I think the power that we have when we're highly intelligent thinkers is we take it and we pick it apart a little bit, and you basically said, okay, like, this part is true. I can work on some of my behavior, but these other pieces are not true. Yes. And the truth is that I'm good at those things. Yes. But I had a bad moment. Right. And I had to slip up and put those in perspective so that thought that keeps saying you're a bad social worker, it no longer, it can't exist anymore. You basically, like, replaced it with something. Yes. And I don't believe in positive thinking. That's not my thing. Like, just think positively. You know, I hate that. I know. But I do believe in adding, like, the correct perspective. Yes. Which we can talk about a little bit, too. Gaining perspective.
And gaining perspective. And some of that, I think for me, because then later that day, I was in a family meeting, and I just had this moment of these things that I knew to say to be true for the moment. Like, I just spoke what was needed, and I thought, now there's an example. So it's, I don't think we always get those times of, oh, there's the example of when I'm awesome at what I do. But, you know, you think, oh, this is just the worst thing ever. And then kind of like you're saying, picking that apart and saying, this is what is true. They have their own opinions about something that I said to someone. Yeah. I thought it was appropriate and needed. Yeah. But then that, I think what helped me was after that, later that day, having a moment of, here's the proof of why I do what I do and how I'm actually skilled at this. Yeah. So take that. Spotlight. Take that, brain. You're wrong. I am good at this. And you're right, that black and white label of black and white thinking of it is this or it's this, but though that distorted thinking really just it sucks.
It's so toxic.
It's so toxic.
Yeah. And I think that's like the lowest level thinking you can do is leave it right there. Like, yeah, I'm bad at this. That's who I am. I'm letting it label me.
That's brutal. Well, we're not going to let that defeat us, are we? We're growing.
We're growing.
And look at that moment of you just dropped a truth bomb, and I'm super proud of you. Better. I'm glad. Yeah. We got to keep telling ourselves the truth.
That's right. I love it.
Yeah. So, something that I think that we talked about how we do this, but
yes.
So that self-analyzing part of like, well, let's just say what is the tell me about the self-analysis for you.
So me, you know, I analyze everything. Yes. Analyze this, analyze that. Not the movie, but the thing. Movie. But yeah, for me, it's breaking it down into pieces because obviously when you take it at face value, all you have is a wide shot, and it's easy to label something with a wide shot. But when you take it in pieces, like, how was I feeling today? Is that how I normally feel? You know, I could tell myself for that day, I was feeling really foggy-headed because I had a lot on my mind. Did I act the way I normally act? What was affecting me? How can I, was the other person that was involved, was this somebody I could talk to? That's a big thing for me. Is this someone I can approach and resolve the problem with? Right. Did they show attributes of someone who's going to want to dialogue? So that was kind of a factor for me about what I did about it. And then where do I go from here? Can I solve this? Or do I need to just get past it? Yeah. And for me, I think the situation, self-analyzing and gaining perspective is always to talk to somebody who is much more level-headed than I am. And I usually go when I'm feeling very emotional and super charged with feelings, which is what I want to say. I go to my logical thinkers, which is first my husband. Yeah. And I explain the situation, and he's so good at just spatting back out logic. And he basically told me, like, I'm sorry about what happened, but you need to, because I was like, what do I do now? He's like, from what you've described, it doesn't sound like this person is going to be someone who really wants to resolve. I mean, I think if there was a moment for you to apologize or, you know, but he's like, I think you just need to get past this because you pursuing it is probably going to make it worse. Yeah. And it's going to make everybody involved worse. So I think you need to just try to get to the other side. Yeah. And that really helped me because when I have negative feelings, I usually want to fix someone else. So I wanted to fix her, and I thought, if I can get her to forgive me, if I can grovel hard enough and get her to forgive me, like write a nice enough card, then I'll feel fine about who I am. So part of my self-analysis is separating the other person's opinion of me and just working on my opinion of me and working on my perspective of myself. I think that's huge because we think that, like, well, if I can get that person to like me or approve of me or, like, give me everything I need, then I'm fine. And that actually, I heard this on the radio today. That type of thinking comes from people who usually are in unsafe households growing up, is because you usually learn as a child that, like, if I can just get everyone else to be okay, then I'm fine. Right. But it's always the other people that you focus on. It's a very codependent thing. Yes. So for me, I have to really focus on, like, I need to look at myself and become okay with myself, even if that person doesn't change their opinion of me. She could think I'm a BICTH mother, bad driver, for the rest of her life, and I've got to solve what's going on inside of me. Yes, and it has to be separate.
I think that self-analyzing isn't something I would naturally do. I think it's something I have to work out of, like, looking at it from, like you're saying, the logical. Like, this is what I know to be true. Right. This is what I'm feeling, but this is actually in contrast with what I know. Yeah. So that self-analyzing of the situation and how, what for me, it's what is truth, because like you're saying, the brain isn't telling us error, it's believing what we're putting in. So if I'm believing that I'm not good at this, or I'm not good enough, or that I failed at this and I'm a failure, then if I don't really take a look and say, but that's not true because blah 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 blah, and really choose to see a different perspective, to gain perspective, I will feel like crap all the time. Yeah. But you're right, and that there's people that can, hopefully there's people in our lives who can help us get that perspective. Because when we're in it, we're like tunnel vision in it. Oh my gosh. There is no other truth. This is what it is. There's nothing else to believe. I'm the worst. And someone to be like, tap, 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 hey, this is actually what I know. And logically, this is what's happening. Have you thought about this? Yeah. I think that those people are just golden. And we need people in our lives, and that we can do that for other people, to remind each other of truth, to remind each other of who we are, the value that we have. We all make mistakes. We all mess up. We're all going to not look when we back up. We're all going to not necessarily take people on the right trail. People are going to tell us what we don't want to hear, and people are going to be weird with us, and it's really not going to be about us. And if it is, all we can change is ourselves. We can't go back and change those people. Yeah,
and I think the biggest thing is to realize that, like, if you're the type of person who makes a mistake and then wants to do better and does self-improvement, you've already proven a majority of those statements wrong, because you're seeking some type of growth. And I think that's what changes the brain, is you know, the child brain. I think of, like, the way my son sees things, black and white, fair is fair, you know, this is that. And I think the way my adult brain is supposed to be a little bit more developed, and I'm supposed to have these other pathways.
Supposed to, huh?
Right. Supposed to, if you work on it. Yeah. And you build those other pathways to help you to deal with the situation. Yeah. I think that's what makes you a mature person. Agreed. Because otherwise you're just going to scream, fudge you. And that's how you deal with it that day. And that's what my husband explained to me. Like, that's the way she dealt with it that day, is you're just going to scream at someone and lash out at them. And that's your resolution of solving a situation. I could have done that in return, just lashed out in my self-pity and made it all about me being, the worst person in the world. But that doesn't help anyone or solve or help me move forward.
We have to be intentional in our growth. Yeah. To really see what's really happening and what we can kind of let go of. But a lot of the things we're thinking aren't really true.
Yeah, I think that's a hard thing to come to terms with. But it will be very helpful if we can take some of these labels that we're feeling, and we can break them down a little bit and use some of these tools that we've talked about, because otherwise we don't move forward. And I think that is where you build, like, huge fears. Yeah. You build huge fears out of those things, especially socially. Yes. Because you have this label, like, I'm not good at relationships. I'm not good at, I had this label for the longest time. This. I'm not good at friendship. Right. After my breakup with you, I was just not good at friendship for a really long time. And that was, I used to tell people that. I used to, like, live it. And it took me a long time after a lot of work to realize, like, wait, people who aren't good at friendships don't work on themselves. And I've been working on myself for 2 years. I think I'm starting to get better at this because I'm being intentional.
Those labels are powerful.
They suck.
The labels are for cans, not for people. I don't know where I heard that back in the day, but that stuck with me because those are really harmful. And I've had those. I'm not good at relationships. I'm not good at this and this. And I think that, like you said earlier, the isolating, it limits us.
Yeah.
And how we are socially. It limits our ability to connect with people. And I think a lot of that is shame.
Yes.
It's really based in shame of, this thing happened, so I'm going to believe this about myself. And that really keeps us in a cage away from people, disconnected, when really, I don't know about you, but when I've chosen to move beyond that, to brave, it's hard, but brave the being intentional about moving past those things, I find that the people in my life who've been there believe the highest things of me. They know all this stuff. I have people I've been friends with for years, and they know the stuff, and they know what I've dealt with, and they still believe a different label. They see me as I truly am. Even those people on the hype, they all friended me on Facebook and Instagram. Oh, I know. Sure?
They're following you again.
They're following me. I may have not taken on the wrong trail. No, but
that was a Instagram pun?
It was.
It was like, Ian now following you. You're like, oh no! Not again! Don't do it, Ian!
Don't follow me! Follow the rest of them! I'm going to take you to half show. You're not supposed to go there. But for real though, like, I turn out to be a pretty cool person that people like when I'm believing I'm just the worst.
Right.
So those labels really keep us trapped, and we know who we are. Our highest selves say, I'm a good mother, I'm a good friend, I'm a good hiker, I'm a good social worker, I'm a good advocate, all those things that we believe about ourselves, and our highest, healthiest selves, that's us.
Yeah.
The other parts are just lies.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
After doing this today and using these as an example, I don't know about you, but mine kind of feels smaller.
Mine does too.
It doesn't feel like... I used to have this therapist who would label, like, with numbers. It was really helpful to help someone else understand the gauge. Like, I walked in here with that being like a 9, and now it's like a 3 for me on, like, the level of how much it's affecting me and how much stress it's causing me. And I think the thing, too, is, like, you dispel a lot when you talk about it with somebody who can help you. Because you see the reaction, they're like, it's... And it's not that you're looking for someone to be like, that's not a big deal.
Yeah, not dismissing
it. It is a big deal to you, but someone who helps you walk through it. And I think that's what's important.
The shame, it's like Brene Brown says, we love Brene. When you put, what did she say? Empathy in a petri dish, shame can't survive. So we talk about it, and we kind of dispower, is that a word? We do something to something. We take away the power of that.
I don't even have like an assistance to help you with that. Unpower depower.
We depower the strength of the belief. It just doesn't feel that important until we're hiking again, and we feel we get triggered, and then we remind ourselves.
Yeah, the next time you hike, you can remind yourself of the good statements that you talked about,
and remember all the times that you are an awesome mom. And
how many times I help little 3-year-olds not cry? I'm gonna think about that when I pull in the parking lot.
Remember that you helped Spider-Man
guy not cry. And then I was leaving today, and he was screaming, crying, and I was like, well, I guess I didn't do anything. But
you gotta
hopefully his little 3-year-old brain remembers that moment.
But you do. That's the
true.
Part. It's he might never, but we have to keep those moments of reality in our heads when we're battling. It feels like a battle sometimes in our minds for what's true.
I love that.
We're pretty great. And we're growing.
Are we ending this podcast? We're really awesome, guys.
You should be our friends.
So as we wind down, because I think we're coming to a close. Thank you so much for sharing that. I know that was hard for you, and these were hard topics to talk about. But
thank you for sharing as well.
Thank you.
It's a very vulnerable moment to share with the world.
I was not going to tell anybody but Voss, but how's everyone? That's great.
Go from Voss to everyone. Hello, world.
We just wanted, again, we always challenge people at the end. I think that's good. You're probably thinking of something that happened to you recently that's kept you in a brain spiral. And I want you to try to take some of these tools that we talked about today and apply it to your life and see if that helps. And if you need any help or need anything, reach out. You can, is it called PMing us? You can PM us on our Facebook page. It's a private message, or you can leave a comment.
We want to hear from you because we appreciate you listening, and we want to hear how we can support you.
Yeah, so look for us on Facebook and send us a message, and we can help kind of, guide you in the right direction. Whitney always has tools. I don't know. You've got papers and stuff.
We're no experts, but
we're not experts.
We just know that we like all of you are human, and we're just trying to find our way through it. And if we can support you, we got worksheets, we got tools,
we got worksheets.
I don't think we have worksheets.
We got PDFs.
We don't.
PDFs. We don't have any PDFs.
We don't need any.
We could find a PDF.
We're just gonna try to keep it real, and each of us, and just deal with the stinking thinking that we have going on, and to see who we really are as people, and that's important. So thanks for listening.
You guys have a great day.
Next time on 30 Wordy in Friendship, we actually don't know what we're going to talk about, but we'll see you again.
Tune in, and it's a surprise for everyone.
Surprise?
I meant to say surprise, but the sun didn't come out, and I just said there's a prize. It's a surprise.
Oh, we're not giving out a prize?
No.
Okay, but it's
prizes.
A surprise.
It's a surprise what we're doing next.
Okay. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.